So obviously yesterday you got a couple guys coming down to you. One of them's Brandon Byro. What does it mean to have him back right now?
Yeah, Byro, established himself over the last couple of years, especially last year as a real driver for us. One of the best players. He was one of the best players in the North Division in that 30-40 game run that he had. And what's most impressive about Brandon is everybody talks about his offense, and he was leading our team in scoring by like 10 points when he left. But what's more impressive is he's our best defensive player most nights. He's an elite defensive forward, whether he plays wing or center. He's a great penalty killer, and he's one of our, if not our most trusted defensive forwards. So anytime you can have a forward with as much offensive firepower as he has that's also elite defensively, that adds so much to your team.
It feels like for those prospect players, this level is about rounding out their game. And he got that NHL game with the Sabres last year. He was one of their final cuts going into this season. I mean, how close is he to being NHL ready in your mind?
I think he's there. I don't think it's close. I think he's ready. But right now it's just numbers, so credit to some of the guys like a Benson at camp who makes those decisions hard. But Brandon Byro is ready to be an NHLer. You see it in his games. You see it in how he practices, how he carries himself. And it's just going to be a matter of time before the opportunity presents itself.
Speaking of guys that have played at that level, you get Clay Stillman back with him. Do guys that have had meaningful time in the National Hockey League contribute, or can they help? Not just on ice, but off ice being in this locker room?
Yeah, to have some veteran, we're a young group, and we have some older guys, like Mersch and Prow and Jobst and guys like that. But we don't have a ton of older guys. We're even our core of driving players, the Murrays, Byro, Weisbach, Rusek kind of age group is still pretty young. So to have some guys like Clegg and Stillman that have all that NHL experience, they can share those things with our players. But more importantly, it's the attitude with which they both came down with. Sometimes players can come down and everybody wants to be in the NHL, right? So sometimes the way they come down mentally doesn't help. And these two came down with just incredible attitudes. Both their practices have been great, competitive, into practice, fully engaged, fully invested in their teammates and themselves and getting better. So it's a real credit to Clager and Stiller about the mindset that they approach this with.
But is it interesting too that I know you mentioned Merge and other guys that have been around the block, so to speak. Those two, Clay and Stillman, both 25 years old. I mean, they're still young in their career where there's still room to reach that ceiling.
Absolutely. It's funny. I talked to Clegg about that last year when he started the season with us. We're like, Clager, you got to keep getting better. You're still young. And he didn't look at himself that way, because when you turn pro early out of junior and you've been in an organization, sometimes you get passed by other younger prospects, and you cannot feel like you're still that young prospect. But these guys are, a lot of the guys I just mentioned, they're in that 23, 24, 25-year-old age range. There's still a lot of growth left in their game, especially on the D-line. Defensemen and goalies probably mature a little bit later than forwards do. That's why you see more forwards in the NHL at younger ages than you do at D, and certainly at a goalie. So these guys still, and what happens in the NHL when you're a guy that's in that 6, 7, 8 hole in the NHL, or the 12, 13, 14 hole at forward, it becomes about surviving and staying in the league more than it becomes about getting better. And sometimes when you get to come back to the American League, and Jankowski was like this last year, Anders Bjork was like this last year, 2 years ago for Janko, you get to work on your game again because you get more practice time here, you get more puck touches here, you get more ice time here. And those things can be a real good thing for your career if you look at it in the right perspective.
You mentioned with Clay, you're talking with Stillman. I mean, obviously for a few years now, he's been consecutively in the NHL. So this is a little different for him. You mentioned touches. And what is it about this game that, I guess, if not refined, just concentrating on a little bit more that he can do here to make sure he's up in Buffalo?
Well, this is from his perspective. You know, he and I talked yesterday, and you know, he's known as a physical, hard, mean defender, and you know, but sometimes again, if you're in that lineup, you're playing 12 minutes. That's all you get to do. And here, let's grow your game. Let's be a transitional defenseman. You know, he's never going to lose his identity. He's hard to play against. He's got a bite to his game. That's always going to be there. That's his calling card. But getting to be here, getting to practice more, getting more ice time, you also can be more of that puck-moving transitional defenseman. And that is where the game is going at the NHL level as well. You need more. The more you can do that in your own game, the better your chances are of getting back to that level.